Today we are going to speak about the millennial generation. First of all, we're going to make an introduction about why this generation is important and why it's called to be the next great generation and to take a lot of importance in the next years. Secondly, on chapter 2, we'll analyze the influential factors in millennial personality and characteristics that follow these factors. Firstly, we'll analyze their childhood and education. It's very important because millennials have grown, according to some specialists, in an environment which had never seen before. Schools have changed and the educational model has also changed a lot, and that has marked the personality of the new individuals. Secondly, in chapter 2, we speak about social media and technology. Undoubtedly, social media and technology have exploded in the last decades, and that has affected in a very, very serious way to the way of acting, the way of communicating, and the way of behaving of individuals in our societies. Third of all, we speak about instant gratification. In our actual world, we can get lots of things instantly. We can call for someone to bring us food in a few seconds. We can look up a piece of information in minutes, and everything is instant, even emotions. Lastly, in chapter 2, we'll speak about the environment. It's important to analyze the environment because it's not the same a person who has grown in Spain, for example, and a person who's grown in another city. And the same happens with the timeline. People who was born from 1984 onwards will have different characteristics than people who were born before. On chapter 3, we'll be analyzing the behavior of the millennials, taking into consideration some surveys and some data. And to finish, we will be explaining some conclusion that we can extract from the previous analysis. The conclusion will have my personal touch, as I'm the person who is making the analysis, and will be my personal opinion. Millennial generation gathers on a first approach every person who has been born from 1984 onwards. It's very important to highlight that they are more numerous, more affluent, better educated, and more ethnically diverse than any other generation before. We can see it in this graph how they are more numerous, more ethnically diverse, and more affluent than any other generation before. We can see here the Gen X, who were born between 1961 and 1981, the boomers born between 1943 and 1960, and the millennials, who are much more numerous than the previous generations. On the one hand, according to the literature that we have, who speak about millennials, we have two very big and very differentiated positions. On the one hand, we have the pessimistic position, who represented by Simon Sinek, who says that millennials are entitled, narcissistic, self-interest, unfocused, and lazy. On the other hand, we have a different point of view represented by other researchers such as Neil and Strauss, who say that millennials are confident with the use of new technologies, they are masters of social media, and they are capable of working with technology with a lot of confidence. They are also developing habits that before these times were not related with the youth. For example, teamwork and also modesty. So that's a positive way of watching millennials. On the next chapters and throughout the rest of this reading, we will be explaining these two positions further. Firstly, we are going to analyze the childhood and education of millennials. Without any doubt, millennials have grown in an educational system that have no precedents. According to Simon Sinek, many of the millennials grew up subject to failed parental strategies, which means that parents were giving too many rewards which weren't earned by the children, and this gives less value to the people who actually works to get the rewards, and makes feel even worse the people who gets the rewards without earning them. And that's and what we are getting is a society with a lower self-esteem, according to Simon Sinek. However, millennials have also developed these habits which we were speaking before, such as modesty and teamwork, which are positive. It's positive to see that children work together much more than before. On second place, we'll speak about social media and technology. Technology has surely affected to the way in which we relate and which we communicate. What Simon Sinek says is that engagement with social media releases a substance called dopamine. This substance is the same that it's released when we gamble or when we drink alcohol. He doesn't say that it's dangerous to use social media or cell phones, but it's dangerous to abuse of them. So I think, like him in this part of the reading, and I think that it should be limited for the childhood, social media and cell phones, because it's a part of your life where you have a lot of anxiety and stress, and if you learn to calm that anxiety with social media, you will end up abusing of it, and you will not learn how to use the necessary skill sets and mechanisms to rely in other people to create meaningful relationships. If you add to this the instant gratification, which we spoke about it before, what you get is a society that wants things right now and in that moment. We have Google, we have, as we said before, different things that they enable us to obtain anything we want in very little time, and that's also dangerous because there are some things that cannot be obtained in very little time. Job satisfaction, happiness, love, there are some things that are, according to Simon Sinek, messy processes and very difficult processes. Another point that needs to be highlighted is the environment. Right now we are living in an environment where corporations care more about numbers than they do about individuals. They care more about short-term gains than they care about long-term human happiness and satisfaction. So what we're getting, because of all of these factors, is a society with lower self-esteem, with less confidence than the societies or the generations that were present. Another fact that we are observing is overqualification. People, as we can see in this graph, over the years from the 1960s to the 1990s have been getting into university much more than before. It's been an almost exponential growth. What we've got is a growth in the demand for university study, and that's developed into a much more competent world where people are fighting to get a job. What we get finally is people taking jobs for which they haven't studied, and that doesn't fulfill their dreams and their objectives and goals. But on the other side, we have a much more educated population with less violence and more order, which is very important for the society we are living now. On the other side, and analyzing the data, the statistics, we have much more positive side of the coin. We can see that despite the description showed before, 9 out of 10 people describe themselves as happy and confident, and that's because they are less worried about sex, about drugs, and about violence. We can also see that millennials are rules followers because they are more educated and they've been raised in a world where their parents and their elders always told them constantly to follow the rules and to be obedient. The studies also confirm that they are entitled, achievers, impatient, and messy, and that they need to make an impact. It's very important this point because millennials really have this need to make an impact, and that's a positive aspect in the sense that it's a motivation to work for their goals and to work hard, but it has to be taken with care. It has to be taken with care because if you are too impatient and you want to obtain your goals and make an impact too quickly, you may fall in frustration, and it can turn out to be a double-edged sword. To conclude, we've analyzed these two positions, one of them represented by Simon Sinek, which is the pessimistic position, and on the other side we have the position of other researchers such as Neil Strauss, who think that millennials are more educated than any other generation before. In my opinion, millennials are going to play a key role in the future of the generations, because they are just in the breaking point between the older generations where only human relationships, connections between each others were the only thing that could play in order to obtain success, in order to obtain happiness, and the new era where technology has exploded and we can obtain a lot of things through technology. We can obtain our friends' approval through technology, we can obtain even love through technology, we can obtain jobs through technology, and anything in very little time. So this generation has the capacity to learn from the elders these mechanisms, these skill sets to relate, to create meaningful relationships, trust, to rely on other people, and they also have the capacity to learn to use technology, to master technology, and to obtain all the benefits from these tools, these new tools that we are learning now, from the analysis of data and many other tools that technology can give us. For me, they are just in that middle point, and it's very important that they preserve these values of the elder generations and transmit them to the youngers. To sum up, I think that there are far more characteristics of this group that are favorable than the ones that are negative. However, as I said before, it's very important to lay the foundations for new generations and lead the way for a useful and sustainable use of technology. Without any doubt, technology has already settled in our current society. Lots of new uses and fields have been opened, and others remain to be discovered. But we must always bear in mind where we come from, our origins, and be faithful to what really makes us happy and what really makes us feel alive. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure for me to speak about this subject. Goodbye.